Mukam karoti vachalam mangam nangayate garim kripadram mande Sri Gurun Dinatalanam. Yesterday, before we left from Plovdiv, there was a young lady who came to ask me some questions. I thought she would ask questions about Krishna, but it turned out she's a devotee of a kind of drug called psilocybin mushrooms. So she also had some interest in Krishna consciousness, but she seemed to be more interested in this drug. So her problem is that she was very convinced that her intoxicated state of mind, when she would take this hallucinogenic drug, that this is transcendence. But, in fact, it is Maya, which it was very clear from her own presentation of her experience on this drug. She was saying that when I'm under the influence of this drug, then matter looks so beautiful. And she was pointing to the stones in the garden. Every stone looks so beautiful. So, yes, this is Maya. Maya is actually, Prabhupada said, the most powerful drug of all. Prabhupada said these drugs that people take, like this psilocybin or LSD, mescaline, marijuana, these are just spices in the real drug, which is Maya. Mm-hmm. So Maya creates this powerful illusion which merges our consciousness into matter. Just as this body we have, we, under Maya's influence, we think this body is so nice. We think it is very beautiful, very strong. And in this body we become attracted to the bodies of others. But this is the deepest illusion. Because in reality, these material bodies are not nice at all. And one needs only to look inside to see what this material body really is. So, the material energy is constantly in flux, constantly changing. As Krishna says about this material body, that it is always changing. From childhood to youth, to adulthood, to old age. Indeed, this body is different with every passing moment. It is exactly like a candle flame. Or when we offer the ghee lamp, so you can see these 5 flames. Now, due to illusion, these flames, each one of these flames appears to be steady. a steady, brilliant object. But in fact, a flame is something which is appearing and disappearing at an extremely rapid rate. There is very, very much transformation within a flame. Yet, due to illusion, we see the flame as a steady object. So exactly in the same way, this body is constantly transformed. Literally, moment by moment by moment. Yet we are thinking, you see, we're thinking, when we talk with someone, we think this is the same person or the same body that we were talking to a moment before. But in fact, it is a different body. And we are speaking with a different body too. So that is why there was that one sage I mentioned in my book, Cratylus, ancient Greek sage. So he was a sage. Usually sages are known for what they say, but he never said anything. Because his philosophy was, because everything is changing, what is there to say? You ask me a question about something, but in the time it takes you to ask that question, that thing is already something else. And then I'm answering about something that doesn't even exist in fact. So, this is a kind of Mayavadi philosophy. So he, therefore, wouldn't say anything. And there are, in East also, in India and other Asian countries, there's similarly such kind of yogis who take a vow of mauna. They don't speak. Because they consider that the use of words which build ideas in the mind is all illusion. So anyway, this is our condition. Prabhupada calls it here ku-yoga. That by the drug of Maya, our consciousness is now settled into the material elements, which are always transforming. And there is a flow of transformation. That is called karma. Just like in the Atlantic Ocean, there is a stream, a current, called the Gulf Stream. It starts down around South America, in the Caribbean Sea. And then it flows up the east coast of the United States, and then across the Atlantic to northern Europe. And it is because of this Gulf Stream that countries like England, for instance, hardly have any snow in winter. If you look on the globe, you'll see where England is. It's very far north, and you would suppose that in the winter it must be covered with snow, like someplace like Sweden, because it's more or less on the same level as Sweden. But that doesn't happen because of this flow of warm water from the Caribbean. So if you happen to go out in a rowboat, just off the coast of Florida, for instance, then you get caught in the stream. It's very powerful. And if you're not a strong rower, then very soon, instead of being off the coast of Florida, you'll be off the coast of New York. And then you'll be in the middle, few days later, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And within a couple of weeks, if you haven't drowned, your boat hasn't sunk beneath the waves, you'll be bumping on the English coast. Because it is like a river within the ocean. So, like that, just like that Gulf Stream, so each of us is being pulled along by a particular current. We are spirit soul, but due to the drug of Maya, we are floating on the material energy like a rowboat floating in water. And each one of us has a karma, and that is pulling our little rowboat somewhere. You know, rowboat? Rowboat is this boat, this little boat. Okay. Yeah, okay. So like this, we are being pulled from this body to next body. Actually, next body means in the next second. We're being pulled by the flow of material energy from one body to the next in the course of this single lifetime, and then on to the next life and the life after that. And that is the meaning of this word ku-yoga. Yoga means connection. So we are connected by Maya to this material energy. And ku in Sanskrit means bad. It is not good to be connected in this way to the material energy. So everybody is a yogi, but in this material world, most people are bad yogis. They're meditating on the wrong thing. Just like this girl again. She's considering to take this drug as a kind of meditative experience. But it is ku-yoga meditation. So Srila Prabhupada says here, we must take up su-yoga. Su means very nice, good yoga. So by su-yoga, one becomes connected to Krishna and transcends this material energy. Transcend means to rise above. So in the example of that, you're in that little boat and you're caught in the Gulf Stream, it's dragging you to England. But if you transcend, that means if somehow the boat just rises up out of the water, then you will not be pulled by the stream. So the verse and purport is explaining that we can transcend this current of our material karma by hearing from a pure devotee. The state of this Ku-yoga is exactly like the state of sleep. Just as also, everyone has the experience. You sleep at night and you dream. A dream is simply a flow of mental energy. You have no control. You see, you dream something nice, but then in the next moment it becomes hellish. It is just something you experience. You have no control over it. So our life is like that in this material world. So, to receive through the ears the transcendental sound vibration of Krishna Katha, spoken from the lips of a pure devotee, is to wake up from this dream. And here the potency of this sound vibration is glorified. Here, the Lord is called Uttama Shloka. This name of Krishna is actually telling us that Krishna himself is the glorification of Krishna. So a pure devotee, because he is so dear to Krishna, when he speaks in praise of the Lord, that vibration that comes from his mouth is Krishna, is Lord Uttama Shloka. Pravishtakarna randrena svanam bhavasororuham junokti shamalam Krishna yatha shalilasya sharat. It is the sound incarnation of Krishna. And when it comes into the holes of the ears, it immediately goes into the heart. The heart is compared in this verse to a closed lotus flower. Everyone's heart is like a lotus, but in material consciousness the lotus is closed. But by the influence of the spiritual sound, that lotus opens. And if you've ever seen, how many have seen a lotus flower? Only Gore. Phew, okay. So in the center of the lotus flower, there is something that looks like this, where the seeds appear. It looks just like a little platform. You see on the base of Shishi Gornitai. You see, it is a lotus base, and in the middle there's a platform. And in fact, that's how a lotus flower looks. So that platform appears when the heart opens. And that is the throne, our inner throne, on which Lord Krishna appears and receives our worship. So everyone's heart is meant to be an altar for Lord Krishna. So the installation ceremony begins by this hearing process. And as we go on hearing, then the whole temple manifests with all activities of devotional service. There's a nice, beautiful song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Mama Mana Mandir, which means my temple of the mind. So everyone should read this, the translation of this song. It is very beautiful. He describes all of the devotional activities which he is performing within his own heart. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. Once, in the very beginning days of Krishna consciousness, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples was put in prison. Because of some previous activities with drugs. So he had been sentenced to go to jail. And although he had become a devotee, he still had to go to jail for some time. So, while in the jail, he had a very little deity of Lord Jagannath. And devotees used to visit him. And he would tell them about all the service he's doing for Lord Jagannath. Yes, I'm cooking for them. I'm cooking for Lord Jagannath. And very nice preparations. And dressing him. And put him to bed in a very beautiful bed. And we have big kirtans for him. But the devotees were seeing, it's just a jail cell and one little Jagannath deity. How is he doing all these activities? He said, I'm doing everything in my mind. So when Prabhupada was told this, Prabhupada said, he is 100% Krishna conscious. Because that's what it means to be Krishna conscious. As I said yesterday, we may be here in this nice facility, or we may be under a tree. But one who's Krishna conscious, there's no difference. Because his heart is always overflooded with devotional activities. So, all of this is generated by the hearing process. Dunoti shamalam Krishna yata shalila sharat. This is not actually, no, we should not think that, this is something amazing. It is simply a question of purifying the heart. It is only because our heart is so dark and dirty that there are no devotional activities manifest there. If we clean our heart, you see, Krishna appears because he is there. He is there. He is there right now. But, as Prabhupada said, because our desire is so impure, we cannot see him, we cannot hear him. He's speaking to us also, but we cannot hear him. So the purification begins with hearing from a pure devotee. And it doesn't matter how ignorant and fallen one may be. There is the very wonderful account of Akshobhya Tirtha, who is an acharya in our Vaishnava Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So, Sri Akshobhya Tirtha, he is descended from Madhvacharya. And he, in his travels, came to a riverbank. And he was just sitting there under a tree. From the other side of the river, a prince came riding up on his horse. This prince's name was Dambo Pant. And this prince came into the water with his horse. And the prince leaned over and drank from the river. And Akshobhya Tirtha, he said to the prince from the other side of the river, "My dear prince, you drink water just like a bullock." Now this is seemingly just a very mundane kind of remark. It seemingly has nothing directly to do with Krishna. But because Akshobhya Tirtha is spiritual master, even these words, they had the deepest meaning. Because in his previous life, this prince had actually been a bullock. The bullock that had been engaged by Madhvacharya in pulling his library. He had a whole library of books that he kept in a wagon. And so when Madhvacharya would travel and preach, he would bring his library with him. And he would every morning give class. And just like in our ISKCON temples, when he would give class, some disciples would go to sleep. But the bullock, you see, he was standing nearby. The bullock's ears, because Indian bulls, the ears go down like this. But whenever Madhvacharya would give a class, his ears would go up. So one day Madhvacharya, he chastised his disciples and said, "This bullock is a better student than you." So that had been the previous life of this prince. And when Akshobhya Tirtha made this comment, that you drink water just like a buffalo, then all this memory came into the prince's mind of his past life. And he remembered also all the lectures that Madhvacharya gave, that he had heard. So he, just by those words, "Prince, you drink water just like a buffalo," he became completely learned in Krishna conscious philosophy. So this is a nice illustration of the potency of even a few words spoken by a pure devotee. So someone may then ask, well, so maybe if I just come to one class, then shouldn't I be completely Krishna conscious? Well, you have to think that while you may also have been a buffalo in your last life, perhaps you were not the kind of buffalo that was pulling Madhvacharya's library. So therefore you have to hear more and more. And anyway, you see, the hearing process is nectarian. This is, as Bhagavatam itself says, prasiditam, prasiditi, these words are used. It is satisfying to the self. That famous verse, Atmarama Chamuniyo, Niyagranto api urukrame. It says even one who is Atmarama, that means who is situated in self-realization. even he who is fully satisfied within himself, if he hears the glories of Krishna as spoken by a pure devotee, then he becomes attracted. So there is no point, because this is a transcendental process, so there is no point where we have heard enough. In fact, if we think that we have heard enough, if we think that now I know the philosophy so I don't have to go to any more classes or read books, Prabhupada's books anymore, then we should understand this means trouble. This means due to some offense, we are losing our taste. And so that is why this hearing process must be protected by all the principles and practices of sadhana bhakti. Because if we are not careful to protect this process, then we will make offenses, for instance, make offenses against the Vaishnavas. And the penalty for that is, again, kuyoga. The mind, the consciousness descends back onto the powerful current of material nature. And we get carried along by the force of karma again. Losing our capacity to fix our mind on Krishna. As again, I'm remembering this girl I spoke with yesterday. So I was trying to tell her about Krishna, but she kept coming back to this drug, talking about this drug she takes. So finally I just gave up. I said, well, you have to become tired of this. And Maya is so powerful, it can take us hundreds and thousands and millions of lifetimes before we become tired of her influence. And even if you become tired, it is not certain that just because you have become tired of Maya beating you, that you will have the opportunity to associate with devotees. This opportunity for sadhu sangha, this is dulabha. It is very difficult to get. So we should not waste this opportunity. Should take full advantage and treasure this nectar of Krishna Katha in the very core of our hearts. And to treasure it. This is so, because it is transcendental. So to treasure Krishna Katha in the heart does not mean, as the misers do, that you just load up your heart and lock it up and keep it there. That's materialistic idea. In Krishna consciousness, to treasure means you open the heart. And you distribute the nectar as widely as possible. And the Lord is so satisfied that as much as you distribute, He's supplying more. So this is how one increases one's realization of Krishna consciousness. You hear, and what you hear, you preach. And in this way, one becomes enthusiastic to hear more. And as we hear more, we preach more. As much as we receive, we should give. Just as Srila Prabhupada has given us his books. Every one of us, he has given his books. So if you want to realize the purport of these books, the best way is to distribute the books. To actually physically give the books to people. And also to give these books by speaking from them. Quoting from them. Encouraging others to read them. This is the ecstasy of the preacher. So, when one is first coming and hearing these classes, we hear things that sound so theoretical, so far away from us. But no, it becomes real, it becomes crystallized nectar that you taste. To the degree that we are enthusiastic to distribute this message. The more eager we are to preach, then the more realization of this philosophy Lord Krishna gives us so that we can preach. Are there any questions? Yes? Yes, because the association with devotees, that is very, very pleasing to Krishna. And thus he makes his presence felt even stronger. When you're at home, then you are associating with Krishna through your worship. But Krishna is more powerfully present in the association of his devotees than even directly. Anything else? Yes? Well, this is a person who is very unfortunate. The holy name has rejected him. Okay. The holy name, Nam Prabhu, is Krishna. So, there are people who have very twisted desires in their heart. They're called duratma, crooked souls. So even they get the opportunity to chant the holy name, they can't take it. They cannot get the mercy. So you ask how to preach to him. You have to untwist this person. You have to They have to be purified. So, take prasadam, associate with devotees, discuss philosophy, hear about Krishna. This will untwist the distorted soul. Srila Prabhupada said this process is simple for those who are simple. And for those who are crooked, it is difficult. So in this connection, simple doesn't mean foolish. It doesn't mean like simple-minded. It means straightforward. One who is normal. So he will find this process easy to take up. And one whose mind is all tied up in complicated knots, very difficult mentality, he'll find it correspondingly hard to do these simple activities, beginning with chanting. Yeah, actually, this is the duty of the preacher, to untie the knots of such people's minds. Yes. Yeah, well, as we understand with Srila Prabhupada, what he has given in his books, that is universal. What he has spoken in his lectures, that is universal. But what he has written in his letters, then that has to be considered according to time, place, circumstance. And even more so, what he may have said in private conversations or personal instructions to particular persons, even more so, the time, place, and circumstance has to be considered.